So hello, everyone. And so I'm just bringing you today's devotion for the BW. And today I want to discuss victory in our marriages. I'm still getting a lot of emails because we're still not getting the victory in our marriages, in our homes. And so I decided to do a devotion on it, and hopefully this will help jumpstart you into victory in your marriage. Now, by all means, I don't profess to be a marriage counselor or have a degree in marriage. None of that. I have just experienced life in marriage for 23 years. And so my wisdom comes from being in a marriage 23 years, but my marriage hasn't always been a good marriage. People see the end product of the hard work that I have put into it, which is why I even started the Better Woman, Better Wife ministry. A lot of you who are really close to me know that when I first started this ministry, it wasn't even Better Woman. It was actually just Better Wife, just how to be a better wife, because I had learned so many valuable lessons that I said, you know what? I can share this with another sister coming behind me and let her know too that she can have the victory in her marriage. And because I had women who were not married but was desiring to be married, they was like, hey, open it up for us too, because while we are in our waiting season, waiting for our Boaz to come, we can learn some valuable lessons too, so that when we are married, we can be prepared, which is where the Better Woman part of the ministry started. And so again, I don't profess to be an expert. I just profess to be a woman who has been in a 23-year relationship, who has been married for 19 years of those 23 years, and who, again, have just learned some valuable lessons that I wanted to share with you. And so, again, what prompted this devotion is there's so many women who are still not getting the victory. And so I decided to do a devotion called Victory. And actually, I'm going to use an acronym. And the acronym is Victory. So we're going to start off with the V, and the V stands for value. In order to have victory in your marriage, you must first value your marriage. What do I mean by value your marriage? You have to have a high regard for your marriage. You have to have it at the top of the totem pole. You have to know that with everything that's going on in my life, this is the most important, because this is something that has been instituted by God. This is something that is almost like a personal ministry. Your marriage is your ministry. A lot of people don't look at their marriage as being a ministry, but people look at you. They look at your spouse. They look how y'all interact. They look at how you talk to each other. And it sets the tone. It sets the tone. Even when I first got married, and I never, ever forget this, my oldest son told me, looking at you two, I would never want to be married. Never want to be married. What a poor ministry and what a poor example I was setting for my firstborn and what a marriage should look like. It wasn't until I understood God's purpose for marriage that I began to understand my purpose, my role, and to put a value on my marriage. I didn't always value my marriage. I didn't always have a high regard for my marriage. Okay. And so in order to have victory, we have to know that this marriage thing is important. I always buy this. I go to this little shop. It's in Seattle, Washington, and I still order for them. And they sell all of these little notepads and little gadgets and gadgets. That's funny. And one of the things that I ordered was a to-do list. And of course, I ordered the to-do list, and I also ordered some little sticky notes. And the sticky notes, I have something like WTF, but the WTF stands for something other than what but it may stand for something else. But anyway, I ordered this to-do list. And on the to-do list, it had 3 columns. And one of the columns say, must be done today. The second list says, this can wait till tomorrow. The third list said, this ain't important. Get to it when you get to it, basically is what it was saying. And I feel like with that, and I use this to-do list all the time. It's up in my office. I should have brought it downstairs with me to show it to you in the video. But I feel like we all have our mental to-do list. And on that to-do list, when it comes to our marriage, it goes in that third column, This can wait. Take your time. It can wait. Okay. And so, but that should not be the case. So we have to begin to value our marriages and put a high value on our marriage. And then I, in victory, I stands for intentional. And just about every marriage devotion that I have did for the BW, you hear that word intentional. Why do I keep using that word intentional? Because we have to be intentional. Good marriages don't just happen by happenstance. We don't just wake up, don't put no work, don't put no effort, and then we just have this good marriage. That's not how it works. We have to wake up and we have to be intentional every day. Just like when we go on these jobs, we're intentional. Hey, we're going to get there by 8 o'clock. We're going to get off at 4 o'clock. This is what I'm going to do when I get there. And you have your plans laid out. It is the same way in marriage. We have to be intentional about how we move in this thing called marriage, about what we say, what we do, how we operate, that oneness. You know, we have to be intentional about that. Because again, it's not going to happen just by happenstance. It's just not going to happen. We have to put work into it. We have to, even just before I did this marriage, I just called my husband and said, hey, I'm just calling to see how your day going, to see, just to tell you that I love you. I had to be intentional about doing that, stopping what I'm doing, because my mind focus was really on doing this video. I had some stuff I needed to do for work. I got laundry in there waiting on me. I got dinner in there preparing ready. So I had to be intentional and move that up to the top of my to-do list. Yeah, I'm going to call my husband, before the day is out and say something nice, or I'm going to cook his favorite meal. And every day is something different for me that I plan to do nice for my husband, because I'm trying to be intentional. I'm trying to be intentional about what I say, because I used to be the type of wife, if it came to my head, oh, boo, trust me, it's going to come out of these lips. But now I pause and say, is it kind? Is this going to be offensive to him? Is my timing right? All of that, I'm intentional about what I say, what I do. I used to just do whatever. I'm grown. My license tell me every day that how old am I? 40. My license tell me every day that I'm 48 years old. What I'm calling get permission for anybody from. But no, I'm intentional about what I do. I'm intentional about making sure that whatever I do, my husband is in agreement with me. That's how you operate as one. I'm intentional about that. Hey, babe, this is what I'm about to do. What do you think about that? Because one thing I've learned, if he's not touching and agreeing with me on something, it's probably not a good idea. Okay. So being intentional. And then the C in victory is not to compare. And actually, the Lord gave me this word just on yesterday. For those of you who know me know that I also do a prayer line on Sunday morning. And so I have been looking for something for the C in victory, because I've been writing this devotion for about a week. But I'm like, what can I put for the C? What can I put for the C? And I'm like, Lord, you're going to have to give it to me, because I really need for this devotion to bless women. So anything that I put on this paper, it needs to be divine. It needs to come from you, even though my words may not be right, even though I may not conjugate verbs and nouns. When it come across, I need the Holy Spirit to cover this thing and to put it out there so it can reach. If it just reaches and touches one sister, I'm good with that. But I need it to be divine, so you give me the word. And I couldn't think of a word for the C. So right before I got ready to get on the prayer line, my husband, we were down in Huntsville because we was visiting my grandkids. And so my husband had woke up. Normally when I'm on a prayer line, because we get on a prayer line every Sunday morning at 8:30. And so normally when I get on the prayer line, my husband is asleep. Yesterday he was awake. So I'm like, hey, can you do the opening prayer? Because we have our little agenda that we do. We start off with opening prayer and an opening scripture and an opening song. And then we go into our prayer request and we go into praise and testimony. So I'm like, can you just do the opening prayer for me and invite the Holy Spirit on the prayer line? And he was like, no, just go ahead. And I'm like, well, come on, just do the opening prayer. And then keep in mind, we have other women on the prayer line. July is just my month. And so we have another lady, and sometimes her husband get on, sometimes my husband get on, with us. And we have other men that call in too. And so the first thing that came to my head is said, now why Katrina's husband always help her with the prayer line and my husband can't help me with the prayer line? First of all, that would have been a lie, because my husband has helped me numerous of times on the prayer line. He just wasn't willing to help me yesterday. But the thing I was going to do was try to compare my husband and what he do to another lady on the prayer line and her husband. And before I could even get it out of my mouth, because yesterday wasn't a day I was being intentional. So before I can get it out of my mouth, the Holy Spirit said, don't you compare your husband to that man, you know? And so I just paused on what I was about to say. And then the Lord quietly told me, that's the seed, don't compare. So we shouldn't be comparing our spouses to anybody. Because first of all, people make things look good on the outside, but it's not always that way. You may be comparing like, oh, I wish I had a husband like that. And that same husband you may say you wish you had maybe beating Susie upside the head behind closed doors. But yet you said, I wish I had a husband like that. And actually, that was so true. That happened to me years ago. I know a lady and I thought her husband was just the best. Opened doors for her, bought her everything, but he was beating her to death behind closed doors. So first of all, you don't know, because people we in a social media age where people, they gonna always put out the best on social media about them and their spouses. Or people have learned to put on these fake facades when they get out in the real world, but you never know what's going on behind closed doors. So don't ever compare and say you want your husband to be like somebody else's husband, because you really don't know what somebody else's husband is like, number one. Number two, it's toxic for you to compare your husband to somebody else. Number three, when you compare your husband to somebody else, it blinds you to all of the good qualities about your spouse. You know, yeah, my husband may not have gotten on the prayer line for me yesterday, but he's gotten on the prayer line for me millions of times. He take me on trips, he get these bills paid, and the list goes on, you know. So it's so much bigger than just a prayer line. And also, what you do when you compare your spouse and you basically verbally tell them that you comparing them with somebody else, like, say for instance, I would have said, well, why do you always do this? And so-and-so husband always do that. When you do that, you basically telling your spouse, you're really not good enough for me. Or I really want you to be like somebody else. I'm not good with you as you are, you being yourself. I need you to be somebody else. That's bad. Don't compare your spouse. But instead, I got a second C for you. Instead of comparing your spouse, how about covering your spouse? And you say, how do we cover them? We cover them in prayer. We pray for them from their head to the bottom of their feet every day before they leave home. How about we use our tongues as tools or as instruments that's going to uplift, that's going to encourage their brother? They are getting beat up every day in these streets, okay? It could have been our husband with the knee in his neck. You know, we don't know what they face when they go out in the world, but we do know that as Black men, they have a lot to face. And so how about we use our tools, which is our mouth, to be the instrument of encouragement and inspiration for them. So instead of comparing them, how about we cover them? So this C in victory is like twofold. Do not compare, but cover, okay? So then we're going to go into the T. And the T actually stands for being trustworthy, being a trustworthy wife. And it's so important to be a trustworthy wife. And you have to ask yourself, can my husband trust me? You know, can he trust me to put the best interest of our marriage first? Can he trust me to always be faithful to him? Can he trust me to be a good steward over our finances, especially if you have those joint accounts? Can he trust me that I'm going to be a good steward over our money? Can he trust me that I'm going to always have his back? Can he trust me that I'm going to be that helpmate? Am I that trustworthy spouse? Even my husband, and even after 23 years, I think it still shocks my husband. My husband has a bad habit of leaving money in his pocket. And I may wash his clothes. I may find $20, $40. One day I even found $180. And I'm like, how did you not know $180 missing out your pocket? But every time, and he have left like 50 cents, 20 cents in his pocket. Every time that brother leaves money in his pocket, it'll be on the nightstand. And after 23 years, he know now if he see money in the nightstand, more than likely I done found in his pen. But when he first started off, he would ask, where did this money come from? I'm like, it's in the washer. He'd be like, you didn't keep it? No. Even my daughter said, hey, you found it, you washing it, why don't you just keep it? It's not mine to keep. That's his money. And so now he realizes, I don't care what I lose. If my wife finds it, it's going to make its way back to me. That's just a small example, but it's so many avenues or so many areas, not avenues, so many areas in our marriage where we as wives need to be trustworthy. Can my husband trust me that I'm not going to hang him out to dry in the public eye? Can he trust me with that? Because sometimes we will bash our spouses out in public. That ain't something we do. We pull them behind closed doors and say, you know what, I didn't say nothing out there, but hey, you know what, you was wrong. But I ain't gonna be in a whole group of his family being like, you know what, you shouldn't have blah, 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 blah. Can you be trusted to be that wife that he can trust, that faithful wife, that backbone that helped me, like I said. And so T stands for we have to be trustworthy. And then moving on to the O in victory is open. We have to be open in our marriage. There are no such things as secrets in a marriage. That's something that my husband and I, we struggled with for many years. And it used to just irk me. And I would tell him, do not let anybody come to me and tell me anything that my husband hasn't already discussed with me first. Because if so, Houston, we got a problem. And so, and when you keep secrets and your spouse find out about those secrets, it's so hurtful, it's detrimental, and it has both not only an emotional impact, it has a mental impact. And so there's no such thing. So now him and I have an agreement. And again, it took us a while to get here, to get to the point there are no secrets. Even if you feel like if this person knows this, it's going to hurt them. First of all, you shouldn't be doing anything to hurt them anyway. But it's just no secrets. You shouldn't be doing anything that I should know about, whether it's even giving somebody. I know one time somebody came up to me and was telling me about my husband help buy them groceries or something. And I wouldn't even messed up about buying groceries, because had he talked to me about it, I would have been like, yeah, get them some groceries. But it was just the fact that you felt the need to keep it from me. Why did you feel the need to keep it from me? And so that was an issue for me. And it was something that happened, same thing with me, something I kept from my husband. He was like, well, why did you keep that? So we always have to be open and honest with our spouses. We always have to keep the lines of communication open. Communicate at all times. Again, this is an area that we struggle with. My husband and I, we actually had to go to counseling to learn how to better communicate with each other. And I'm telling you, it was worth it. And so when you communicate, it's all about time, and it's all about flexibility. It's also about being intuitive. When I say it's all about timing, I mean, if the Super Bowl game finna come on and your husband is a sports fan and the Super Bowl game finna come on, that probably ain't the time, sis, to start a conversation and the Super Bowl finna come on. Being flexible, he may say, you know what, I'm just not ready for that conversation right now. Can you give me a couple of days? Let me get my thoughts together and we can, okay, yeah, be flexible. Don't be like, oh no, it got to be right now, right at this time, because this is when I'm ready to talk. And then you have to be, and when I say be intuitive, know what's going on. Look at your husband's facial expression. Look at his body language. Sort of get a sense and feel, because sometimes, and we've all guilty of this. We say stuff, we're like, man, I ain't mean for it to come out like that, Or, yeah, he's saying these words, but I can tell that this is coming from a place of pain. Or he may be saying these words and I can tell he's just joking, So what he's saying, he really don't mean. But that takes us being intuitive to know what's going on when we're communicating with our spouses. And so being open is so very important. And then we go to the R in victory. And sometimes in our marriages, and if you're still struggling in your marriage, you most definitely need to realign. What do I mean by realign? I'll put it this way. This is probably an example that my husband would use. You think about your car for a second. Say for instance, you get a new car and you driving and putting miles on that car, going back and forth to work today, going wherever, back and forth. During years, you hit potholes, you may hit the curb, you may run over something in the street. But what happens when you hit those curves, when you hit those potholes, when you run over something in the street, what it has a tendency to do is knock your tires out of alignment. And so what you begin to notice is when you drive and your car may pull to one side, or you may notice that your car don't drive as smooth. If you've ever drove in a smooth car and it stopped driving smooth, oh, you know when it's not driving smoothly anymore. And so what you have to do, you have to take your car to a tire center to get a realignment. And it's the same thing in our marriages if we really think about it. We keep hitting these potholes in our marriage. We keep running over these obstacles in our marriage. And year after year, we hitting the curb, we hitting potholes, we running over things. And so our marriage get out of alignment. And we may not take it to a tire center, but we take it to a counseling center, maybe the tire center for our marriage. You know, and for some people, it may not be that crucial where they have to go, but they still need that realignment. And for them, realignment may not be counseling. It may be just something that's just readjusting, recalibrating how you think in your marriage. So we have to do that realignment. And for some reason, especially in the Black community, we have a problem with going to counseling. But let me be the first to tell you, counseling is a good thing. It really helps. It really helps. I can truly, truly say, if I had not been to counseling, I would not know how to communicate with my spouse. I would not know how to communicate with my spouse. And there were so many other techniques that they taught that I still implement to this day. And that probably was 10 years ago we went to counseling, but I still implement them. That was 2010, 2020. I'm still implementing some of the same strategies that counselor put in place to help me or to help us grow as a couple. And I'm sure that my husband probably could say the same thing. Very good strategies that was put in place. And sometimes, you know, we just need that realignment, that readjustment, because it's so very important. So I just want to say to that point, stop making excuses and make adjustments. Bottom line, just stop making excuses, because we can come up with all of the excuses in the world. He this. I don't have the time to go to counseling. He don't want to go to counseling. Trust me, if a brother loves you, because I've heard sisters say that all the time, he's not going to counseling. If he loves you and you give him that ultimatum, trust me, he will go. Trust me, he will go. Trust me, he will go. He just have to know that you're serious about it. So we have to stop making excuses and make adjustments in our marriage. Oh, I do this because he did this. Two wrongs don't make a right, sis. Somebody got to be right in the marriage. Even when you argue, when he said this to me, that's why I went off. My grandmother used to always say, if you see two fools arguing, you don't know which one to fool. Okay? Anyway, moving on. The Y in victory. The Y in victory is for yield, which means to give way to something. Sometimes we have to give way to arguments. Sometimes we have to give way to the demands or the pressures that our marriage are putting on us. So yield basically means to give way, or this is the point. I'm looking at my notes because I don't want to leave out a point. Sometimes we have to disarm anger in order to resolve conflicts. That's the point that I wanted to make. Sometimes we have to disarm anger to resolve conflicts. The way you disarm anger is to yield, sis. You have to yield. Sometimes we just have to pause for a minute to give way to. We have to say, you know what? It ain't that important. It's not that important. And so a wise lady once told me, and this is advice, if y'all ever watched the video with me and my daughter-in-law, this is advice that I gave her. This is advice that I gave to my daughter. And actually an older woman gave me this advice. Pick and choose your battles. Pick and choose your battles. And if it's a battle that's not worth fighting, give way to it. Yield to it. Okay? And then another thing we do, we have to yield to God. Sometimes we have to say, God, I don't know what to do. But you know what? My eyes are on you. That's the same prayer Jehoshaphat prayed. He said, this situation that I'm in, read 2 Chronicles. This situation that I'm going through is too big for me. But my eyes are on you. Sometimes we just have to yield to the leading into the will of God. And be like, God, you know what's going on in this marriage right now? It's too much. But I'm going to yield to your voice, to your will, to your way. Okay, and so that's the end of my devotion victory. I hope that you are blessed by it, because more than ever, I want to see women have victory in their marriages. That was something that I desired for a long time. People who know me know that I was married, but I felt like nobody's wife. This real talk I'm talking right now. Married, ring on my finger, living and sleeping with this man every night, and I did not feel like somebody's wife. And I'm like, God, something has got to give because I can't keep living like this. And so God began to instruct me, to guide me, and to lead me so that I could have victory in my marriage. And I desire the same thing for you. You know, again, it's just about being real. It's about being transparent. And I don't mind being naked if it's going to help you take off your clothes too. And it helps you to get to the next level in your marriage. That's what it's about for me. I told y'all this on the last video. I don't get paid for doing any of this. I do it because I just truly have a desire to see women have victory in their marriage more than anything. I just want to encourage women and uplift them that, sis, you can get through it, that the storm don't always last. It doesn't. If you think about now, if we have a thunderstorm outside, it's just not going to keep storming day after day after day. We go into 2021, it's still storming. No, it don't work like that. We may have a few days of storm. We may have a few days of sunshine. We may have a few cloudy days. But the storm doesn't last. And when the storm does come, I'm going to tell you something that my great-grandmother used to say all the time when we have a storm. If we had a storm and it started thundering and lightning outside, she would be like, Nisi, get in this house. They call me Nisi. That's what my great-grandmother, nobody hasn't called me that since my great-grandmother died, because I think she was the only one called me Nisi. Nisi, get in this house. We would have to close the curtain, unplug the phone, turn off the TV. I wish you would get on the phone and it's storming and lightning outside. That ain't happening in my great-grandmother's house. So close the curtains, unplug the phone, turn off the TV, and we would just have to sit there until the storm passed. And when it stopped thundering and lightning and stopped pouring down outside, then we were able to, plug the TV back up. We were able to get back on the telephone. We wanted to go back outside. We were able to do that. But long as it was storming, we had to basically disconnect. And maybe now that's what we need to do in our marriage. We in a COVID pandemic, and a lot of people are looking at this as being a bad thing, and it is a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not underestimating COVID because it's a real thing and it's a bad thing. My dad was in ICU for 3 months. They almost lost him 3 times. Trust me, I know that it's bad. But in every bad thing, you still can see God moving behind the scenes. And with every bad thing, instead of looking at it as being lemons, you still can look at it as being lemonade. Yeah, we're in COVID pandemic, but it has shut down the world. But maybe it has shut down the world long enough for me to shut down to get my marriage in order. So just like in a storm, when my grandmother would make us unplug the phone and turn off the TV, maybe it's time for you to turn. You maybe can't unplug your phone, but turn off your cell phones, turn off your TVs, unplug from the world and tune in to your spouse. Just unplug. And then get those voices out of your ear. When you start putting family and girlfriends and this person in your marriage, that's going to be, I'm not even going to get into that because that's a whole nother video by itself. When you allow those outside things to interrupt your marriage. As a matter of fact, I'm working on a devotion now that talks about interruptions in marriage. And when you put other people in your marriage, it becomes an interruption in your marriage. But that's a whole nother video for a whole nother day. But my point is that in a storm, sometime in the storm of marriage, sometimes you have to unplug from the world and you have to tune into your spouse, tune into your marriage. And then you go to apply those victory principles that I just laid out. So I hope this all has been a blessing to you. If it has, leave a comment. If it has been a blessing to you, click like, click share. I'm also going to post this devotion on my website, B2W2, and I'm going to post it on there. I'm also going to leave the link here below under this video. And so just let me know what you think of this video. So I pray that you all, as I always say, be blessed and be better. And more importantly, I'm praying that you get the victory.